to generate files like controller, model, or anything else. Rails DB is to open up the database, and Rails destroy is to destroy the files. Now we have also seen what is a rake command. Rake is a task manager that executes inbuilt and user-defined tasks of Rails. Now also remember that rake is a gem and is installed along with Rails. All the tasks that rake can run are found using the command rake-t. So in your command prompt, if you just type inside a Rails application rake-t, it will tell you what are all the tasks that a rake command can execute. One of the most famous rake command is rake db migrate. This will create tables for you. Now we'll move around and we'll see what are roots in Rails application. So the basic purpose of creating a root is to match the URL with a controller action. Now in your application, suppose you have a website called http website.com / whatever you write after that will become the root of your application. So all the roots are specified in config / roots.rb file. For example, inside a roots.rb file, we can write something like get /patients. So when you do your website /patients, you'll get the particular page. So these are nothing but the roots. Now resources on the web. What are the resources on the web? Now if you are working, when you are working on a web application, you are supposed to know certain terms like these HTTP verbs define how your application should communicate with the server. Now suppose you want to receive data from the backend, or you want to post data to the backend, or you want to update some data. Our application always runs on the browser. So from the browser, how does the whatever we input, whatever data we give, how it communicates with the database, and what are the methods that we should use are all defined using the HTTP verbs. So there are 4 HTTP verbs, that is get, post, put, and delete. These 4 you can relate to the CRUD operations of database. CRUD operations as in create, read, update, and delete. So create, read, update, and delete are similar to get, post, put, and delete. You can just map them to each other. So when you are working on a web application, you must and should know what are the HTTP verbs and what are all the purposes of each one. Okay. Then resource routing. Resource routing allows to write all common routes using one single command. It provides a mapping between HTTP verbs and controller actions. Now when you are building a web application, there will be very common commands that we use, like create, update, delete, view, such very common commands. Instead of writing one for each, we can club them together. Now suppose you have get method, post method, put method, delete method. Instead of writing all 4 separately, what we can do is we can write all together in a single line called resource. Now suppose something called photos, I can write resource : photos. So this resource : photos, what it does is it will create 4 routes for me. Okay, we'll see one example here. So HTTP verb is on the left. We have various paths, action, and what is the purpose of each. Now for example, HTTP verb is get. What will be the path? Path as in your suppose you have a website called http.abcd.com. After that, whatever you enter will be the path. Now if I am just entering https some abcd.com /photos. So when I do this, where does the action goes? Action always searches for the index method in your controller. There should be a method name index. Inside that index, whatever you write, that gets executed. So index method is generally used to display. Not just in Rails, in any language, index is the method through which we display. Next HTTP verb is get. Now what I am doing here, photos is /new. Suppose I want to create a new record of photos. So photos is /new. Inside the photos controller, there is a method called new. Action name is new. So what it will do, it will return an HTML form for creating a new photo. Next, post. Post methods. Post methods are used to create. Post methods will never be visible in your browser. Post methods are always a backend activity. Okay, so this is the action create. whenever you do a post command, what happens is whatever data you write in the form will go to your backend server. From there, it creates a database record. Yesterday, I have explained to you about MVC architecture, how the communication happens between your browser and the backend activity. In a similar way, when you have a form in your HTML, when you enter certain data, that data first goes to the controller. That controller acts as an interface and it connects to the model. In the model, we are connecting to the database. So whatever data you enter in the form passes from controller to the model and from model into the database. Now the database stores the data. Now to fetch that data, we again make use of the model. Model gives it to the controller and controller will again give it to the view. Views are nothing but our HTML pages. So on the HTML pages, we see whatever is being fetched from the database. Whenever we show something on HTML, it is important that we also make use of CSS for a better user experience. So that is nothing but the front end part of our application. HTML, CSS and JavaScript, all together 3 of them act as the front end part. Next, get photos. The fourth one, the get photo slash ID. Now I have created a photo. I have stored some photo in my database. Okay, there are some 100 photos. I don't want to see all. I want to see only one photo. Now, whenever you store something in database, there will be a primary key called ID. This ID is unique for each row. With this ID only, you can identify what that particular data is about. So, if I have a table called photos and if I just do photos slash ID suppose 1, what do I get? I get that particular photo. That is nothing but the show method in our controller. So that is nothing but the show method displays a specific photo. The specific photo means whatever ID you pass, that ID record it will display. Next is edit. Edit. Why do we use edit? If you want to edit certain data, you have stored something in your database. Now you want to change some data inside that form. So in this case, we can use the edit method. Edit is also a get. So photos slash ID slash edit. Now I want to say edit ID number 5. What do I give? Photos slash 5 slash edit. This will return an HTML form to edit whatever data you have entered. Next, put. Put is nothing but to update. In the previous step, we have edited the data. Now this edited data should also be stored in the database. So in this case, we use the put method. Put is always for updating. Existing record, you are just changing certain data. So this is nothing but update. Next is delete. Delete is to destroy. If I just give photos slash 5 and I run the delete method, then that 5th record gets deleted. So these are the 4 HTTP verbs which we will very much use in every web application. Get, post, put and delete. Get is always to retrieve. Post is to store the data in the database. Put is to update and record. And destroy a record completely. Remember these 4 methods, it will be very useful. Next. So what is object relational mapping? In MVC architecture, what we have observed is that we create a model and these models, whatever attributes are present inside the model are directly mapped to the table in the database. Every class, a model layer in the Rails application has a corresponding table in the database. For example, you create a class called student. What will be the table name? It will be the plural form of the class. It will be students. Similarly, if you create something called user, the table name will be users. All this will be automatically created. Once you create a once you create a model in your application, it is directly mapped to the database. Every model has a table in the database and the name of the table will be the plural form of the class. Now in our student class, suppose we defined attributes like name, age, gender, all whatever attributes we define inside the class will be the columns of the table. Now suppose if I have a student class, inside that I have written name given as string, age given as number. So name will be one column, age will be one column. So these are directly mapped to the table in the database. Every table requires a primary key. Primary key is the unique identification of the row. In Rails application, by default, ID will be the primary key. Now if I create something called students as my table name, then my primary key will be student underscore ID. This will be created by default, and this will always be in sequence. It will always start from 1. First record you create, the primary key will be 1, next 2, next 3. So it is sequenced, auto sequenced it will be. You don't have to specify that it should follow a sequence. All these primary key values are stored in a sequence in the table. Now when database comes, along with the primary key, we also have foreign key. Foreign key is nothing but we are referring to refer a foreign key while generating the model. The foreign key model is referred. Now I have a student, I have a teacher. I want to store the teacher data in my student table. What do? I refer it. Okay. So in the student table, the teacher ID will be the foreign key. Primary key will be the own data's ID. Foreign key will be the other table's ID. So this is object relational mapping. Object relational mapping is nothing but we are just mapping the each attribute of the class to the columns of the database. Direct mapping will be there. Next, associations. What are associations? In Rails, associations is a relationship between two models. Associations create a primary key foreign key pair between the models. Okay, now for example, you have a student class and you have a teacher class. Okay, so between the two, we have to create some sort of association. So there are 6 types of association that are supported in Rails. Belongs to, has one, has many through, has one through, and has and belongs to many. Now suppose if I say that a teacher has many students. A teacher has many students. So we are forming a relation between a teacher and a student. But a student can also have many teachers. So whenever we use the has many association, there will always be a belongs to relation. Now here we are saying that a teacher has many students. So it implies that a student belongs to a teacher. There will be two-way binding here. Similarly, we can make use of has one. Suppose there is a scenario where we are assuming that a teacher will have only one student. In this condition, we can write a teacher has one student and the student belongs to the teacher. So these are the kind of associations which we specify in the Rails application. The advantage of using associations is that whenever you give an association between the two models, in this case, a primary key foreign key relation is automatically created. Okay, now if you give a teacher has many students, it means that in the okay, and another advantage of using associations is Rail is that suppose you want to destroy completely the student model. In that case, whatever teacher's data stored will also get deleted. So there is a dependency. All the dependency whichever is being created will be automatically destroyed once a model is destroyed. So we have seen belongs to, has one, has many. Has many through is similar to has many, but there will be a third model involved. Similarly in has one through. Has and belongs to many. Has and belongs to many is like many to many relationship. If has one is one to one, in Rails belongs to has one, has many through, has one through, has and belongs to many. So the purpose of associations is that they help to create a primary key foreign key pair between the models. Now let's move to the next topic, validations. Please let me know if the slide is updated or not. So what are validations? Validations are made to make sure that only valid data is saved in the database. Means suppose you have a website and you are having a form where the user should enter his data. User can enter any junk data, but our database should not save junk data in our database. It should be a proper valid filtered data that we must store in the database. For this purpose we have validations. Validations can be made at the front end of application as well. It is good if you have a database level validation as well. Front end level validation as in, suppose you have a field to enter the phone number. In this case, whenever the user can enter his name also in the phone field. In this case, we can make a front end validation to accept only numbers in the text box. So these are simple front end validations. We can also have a back end validation database, that's called the database validation. In this we can decide what should be the length of the phone number. Now the length of the phone number can be max of say 10 digits. So more than 10 if he enters, we have to stop the user. So such are the database validations. In Rails, since using Ruby is a backend language, so the validations made in Rails will also be the backend validations, database level validations. Example, if we have a attribute as name, suppose the attribute is name in our model and it is required that its length must be minimum 6 characters. Then what do we write? We write validates name. You can even specify maximum characters. So I was talking about the validations. So here what we are doing, we are validating the name field in our model. In this case what we do is validates is the keyword that we should use. What is the name, what is the attribute that we are validating? It's the name. So validates name. What is the restriction that we are putting? We are putting the restriction on the length. So the length should be minimum of 6 characters. This statement makes sure that the whatever name you enter in the field will always comply to this rule that you have made. If it is, suppose if a user enters only 3 characters in the name, immediately it will throw an error saying that the minimum length should be 6 characters. You have just entered 3 characters. So using validations, you can make sure that only the valid data is stored in the database and not any junk data. Okay. Now we'll see a practical web example where we can make use of all the basic things that we have seen about Rails. So we'll see about how to create a hospital application to display the doctors and patient records. So there are certain assumptions that we'll make here. There are two models named doctor and patient. Every doctor's name, specialization is stored in the database. Each patient's name, age and illness is stored. Each patient is mapped to one doctor. So these are the assumptions that we are making. Before we jump into making an application or start coding our application, it is very much important and necessary that we analyze what and all should be done, and what are all the model names that we should give, what should be the attribute in our each model, so that going forward we do not adding something else. So it is very much important that we first have a proper design ready, and with that design we'll start the coding. Here we have assumed that there will be two models called doctor and patient, and in every model, as we know, there will be certain attributes. So here in the doctors we are assuming it will be name and specialization. For a patient it will be name, age and illness, and every patient is mapped to a doctor. Here we can form a association. Okay. So to start this, the first command that we'll use is Rails new, whatever app name you want to give, say hospital. Next will be to generate a model. So to generate a model, what command we use is generate Rails generate model space model name and whatever are the attributes that you want to give. Here I am using the attributes name, specialization, and beside that we give a colon and we specify the data type. For example, name should be of the type string and specialization should be of the type string. So Rails generate model doctor and its data type and its data type whichever we want to give. There can be multiple data types, like it can be a string, it can be a corresponding table in the database. Here if we are creating a model called doctor, that database table name will be doctors, plural form of the model, and the column will be name and specialization with a and it will have a primary key, that is doctor underscore id, and there will be two default columns that are created, which are called created at and updated at. Created at and updated at are the two default columns which Rails create for every table, and it is used for the timestamp purpose. When and at what time a particular object was created, for time tracking these two columns are used. Next. Now we'll see, now we have to create a patient model. Patient model, similarly how we have created a doctor model, similarly we should create a patient model. Here I am giving Rails generate model as patient, name, age and doctor. Here name, okay, string, age, number. Doctor, references I am giving here. Why? We have assumed that every patient is mapped to one doctor. So this will create a primary key, foreign key relation between the two models. In this case, we are telling that the doctor ID be stored in the patient ID. So in the patient table, whenever you run the command rakedb migrate, a table is created. What will be the columns in the table? It will be the name, age, and the doctor. Doctor ID will be the foreign key and patient ID will be the primary key. Okay, so the patient table contains a primary key, a foreign key, and along with the name, age, and created at, updated at will come by default. So patient table contains a primary key and a foreign key. Doctor table only contains the primary key. So whenever you want to create association in Rails, we make use of the keyword references. This will create a association. Now we have created models, we have created two models. Now we will create a controller. Controller, I mean MVC we are going by. So model we have created, controller next we will create. So Rails generate controller doctors. Controller name should be plural. This generates a controller file. For every action defined in the controller, a corresponding view file is present. Now I created a controller called doctors controller. So I created a controller called doctors controller. This generates a controller file. For every action defined in the controller, a corresponding Okay, so whenever we create a controller file, there are methods defined in the controller, correct? So every method that you define will have a corresponding HTML file. Now suppose I create a method called new, def new. So there will be a file called new.html present. Okay. So every action in the controller has a corresponding view file present. A view file is nothing but your HTML file. Okay. All the instance variables declared inside the controller are present in the view. All the instance variables declared inside the controller are present in the view. Means instance variables are something that begin with the @ symbol. So every instance variable, suppose I define an instance variable called @doctors. So @doctors will be available in the HTML. Okay. Every action in the controller must have a root in the roots.rb file. I have spoken about roots. Roots are nothing but whatever you enter in the browser after your website name is nothing but a root. Now suppose I have /new. That /new should be defined in the roots.rb file. This is the requirement. So every action in the controller must have a root in roots.rb file. Now get action is created in the app views controller name folder. Get action as in whenever you define a method as get method, remember only get methods can be accessed through browser. So every get method will have a corresponding HTML file. Suppose if we create a method as post methods can never be accessed in the browser. Their purpose is different. So every get method will have a HTML file. So app views, so as we have seen yesterday that there are lots of files that are created inside a Rails folder. So inside the app folder, I had shown you a table, right? Get and all. It is a part of that. So /doctors will display the list of doctors. Similarly, if I do doctors /new renders a form to create a new doctor. Okay. So to start a Rails server, we make use of the Rails space server command. By default, Rails server runs on the 3000 port. There can be multiple ports, but a Rails server runs on the 3000 port by default. You can change the port. Now routing is very important to understand how the URL appears in the browser. So that can be achieved by whatever you write after your website name will become your root. This is about Rails server. Next is Rails console. Rails application can be accessed through Rails console and the object created can be seen and manipulated. Now, object behave or what is the properties in the object, what are the methods I can apply in the object, all that manipulation or all that things you can do in your Rails console. So to start a Rails console, we use the command Rails space console. Okay, a Rails space console will open up the console. It is similar to the IRB, interactive Ruby. Okay, and whatever objects that are created in our applications can be seen here. Now for the doctors model, suppose I created an object called doctor dot I created an object. I want to see what are all the objects that are created inside the doctor model. I can use the command doctor.all. This will show me all the things that are created. Similarly, I can use doctor.last, doctor.first, doctor.all. And there are lots of methods that you can make use of. All the objects created for a particular model is stored in an array. Now if I have 10 objects, all the 10 objects will be stored in an array. Through Rails console, the objects can be created, read, read, updated and destroyed. So like how we do actions from a form. For a user, you want to create an object. You'll see a form. In the form, you write whatever data you want to enter. And after that, when you submit the form, all the data that you entered inside the form will be stored in the database. This is for a user, how he can store the values in a database. But suppose you also want to store something not through the browser, you can do it through a console also. Through a console, you can create an object, you can read an object, you can update an object, and also you can destroy an object. All the CRUD operations that you can do from a browser can as well be done from a console. And these reflect in the database as well. We'll see one example. Directory structure is ready. In this stage, we want to see what are all the files that are created, what is the data written inside the file. This is the app that is created when you run all the commands that I have given you. I have already written the code, so let's see. We'll go to the controller. First, we'll see doctors controller. So the name that is created is doctors_controller. As it is a Ruby file, extension will be .rb. So this is a controller file. First, otherwise we'll see the model file. Okay, so this is a controller file. Here I'll tell you what are the important things. There is lots of code here. Okay, first we can see that we have created a class called doctors controller. This less than symbol indicates inheritance. So it is inheriting from a parent class called application controller. This is a default class. Every controller that you create inside of your Rails application will be inherited from the application controller. Okay, now here I have defined def index, def show, def new, def edit, def create. So all these are the actions, and here you can see what is the HTTP verb mapped to each method. Now def index is a get method. So get /doctors, get /doctors. So /doctors is our path. Inside this I have created an instance variable called @doctors, which is equal to doctor.all. Doctor.all as in it will return all the records of your doctor model. Similarly, I have written def show. Show method means it will show a specific doctor. Okay, so what will be its path? Doctors/1, doctors/2. Whichever ID you pass, that ID data it will show. Now next is the doctors/new. Doctors slash new means I am trying to create a new doctor in my application. So at the rate doctor will be equal to doctor dot new. Dot new will create a new object for the model. Okay. Edit. I want to edit a particular doctor. So what do? Doctor slash one. One is the ID and edit is the method. These are all the get methods. Every get method has a corresponding html.erb file. We'll see that. Next, I have defined some post methods. So what are post methods? Post methods are nothing but the method through which you can post data to the database. Okay, I have created a method called def create. Inside that I have written at the rate doctor is doctor.new of doctor underscore params. Doctor underscore params is the data that comes from the form. Now, to the user will show a form. In that form, the user will fill up the data. All that data, whatever the user enters, will be available in this method called doctor underscore params. Okay. Here, what are we trying to do? Here we are trying to save the doctor. Doctor.save. This is the method which you should use to save the data to the database. Doctor.save. This will save the data in your database in some doctor table. Next, update. Update uses the HTTP verb of put. Put is also called patch. Okay, update is we want to update a certain data in the database. Here also, instead of creating a new object, we are updating the object. So we make use of doctor. So we make use of doctor.update. So to update a particular model, we make use of update method. To create a new model, we make use of the new method. To save a model, we make use of the save method. Similarly, delete. Dot destroy. Destroy will destroy the object. Here you see something called format.html, format.json. Format.html as in HTML page will be rendered. Instead of HTML, even JSON can be used. So this is a very basic controller file where we have given all the CRUD operations, that is to create, read, update and delete. To create a new object, we make use of the new method. To save it into the database, we make use of .save method. To update, we make use of update method, and to destroy, we make use of the destroy method. All these actions happen on a particular object. In this, we have also seen that HTTP verbs that it can use. So this is a very basic controller file. Now we'll see one HTML file, how it looks. Name starts with underscore, it means that it's a partial file. Partial files are the reusable components. So now we have edit.html.erb. There was a method in my controller saying def edit. So every action in the controller will have a corresponding view file. So that is this file. Next is similarly index. Similarly we have new, show, and these are all the JSON files. So remember that every action in the controller will have a corresponding view file. First we'll start with the index. One file we'll see so that you'll understand. So this is my HTML file. So you people might be aware of HTML. So here I have used a h1 tag to list the doctors. There is a table structure to display the data, and similarly I have used, as I had told that all the instance variable declared inside the controller will also be available in the view. At the rate doctor is a instance variable that was declared, and that is now we are manipulating in the view. I had also told that all the data, all the database data will be in the form of an object, in the form of an array. On an array, we are making use of the dot each method. So dot each is the method through which we loop each object. Okay. Here you can see something called less than percentage equal to. Can you see that? That is nothing but the ERB code, embedded Ruby. Embedded Ruby, through this you can display the HTML data. Okay. So this is a very basic HTML file, .html.erb file. In this we have written the HTML code. Along with this we have also written the Ruby code. Here dot each method is used. Dot each method is to loop every object. So once we loop an object, we get one object, and on each object we are applying the column names. Now, name is our doctor model attribute. So doctor dot name, doctor dot specialization. So this is a very basic HTML file. Similarly, we'll see one partial file. So that partial file. A partial file is something that begins with underscore, and inside this we have written a form to display to the user. Whatever you see here, form for @doctor, do f, all this is the Ruby code, embedded Ruby code. If you study properly, you'll understand. It will be very simple to understand, nothing difficult in this. So first we have the first block that you see is if there are any validation that has failed. We have spoken about validations. So if any validation has failed, and the error message which we should display to the user will appear in the first block. After that, we are making use of a div tag. Div tag to div tag. Inside the div tag, we are making use of the text boxes and the label to let user enter some data. So when you are working with Ruby, along with HTML, you must also remember the embedded Ruby methods. Like here I have made use of text underscore field. Text underscore field is a helper method that will create a text box to the user. Okay. Similarly, there is another div where I have created another text field called specialization. Okay. And there is a submit button. So this is a very simple partial file. Inside this we have written to display a form to the user to enter whatever data he wants to enter. So this is a view file. Similar to form and index, there are many other. Now we'll see a sample model file. We have created a model called patient, a model file of that. So class patient, it inherits less than symbol, means active record base is a default Rails class. All the classes in our Rails application inherit from the active record base. Here you can see one association of belongs to doctor, which means that every patient belongs to a doctor. This will create a primary key and foreign key relationship. Okay. Now if I have to, we have created a one-way association. What if now we want to create a two-way association? Here we have said that a patient belongs to a doctor, which also means that a doctor has many patients. Okay. So in the model file of the doctor, we shall write that. Here this is a doctor class which again inherits from the active record base, and inside that we have written that has many patients. Inside patient we had written belongs to a doctor. So in this way we have formed the association between two models, belongs to and has many relationship. Okay. Next we'll see a roots.rb file. Inside this, can you see resources, patients, resources, doctors? We have spoken about this resources, patients, resources, doctors. Suppose if I write resources, patients, it will create all the possible routes for me, like the create method, read, update, delete, all that methods will automatically be created. That is all the methods which are similar to the HTTP verbs of get, post, put and delete. Um, After that, you can see certain examples that is by default created with Rails application so that you understand the roots better. So this we have seen a model file, we have seen a view file, we have seen a controller file. We have covered all three, and we have also seen what is a roots file and how it's in that. Now the server for me. You can see something here, booting Webbrick. Webbrick is the server name. What is the Rails console? Okay, so I have opened Rails console. Here I can check the doctor model. Here you can see that inside a doctor model there is ID, which is the primary key. There is name, there is specialization which we have given, and created at and updated at. Beside everything there is a data type specified. Like ID is of integer type, name is of string type, specialization is of string type, created at and updated at are the date time. Okay. Now if I want to see, now if I want to create an object, what I can do, doctor.new. I'll give you a name, say as doctor 1. Okay, and I'm giving specialization as something, some neuro. These are the two fields that I'm passing. Now you observe that ID is nil yet. Name is replaced with doctor 1. Specialization is replaced with neuro. Created at and updated at are nil. Why are they nil? Because we didn't save the object yet. So the first we'll store this in a variable @doctor. @doctor.save. So this has saved our doctor object. See, you can see here SQL queries being run. Insert into doctors, created at, updated at, specialization and updated. All these are the column names. And what are the values? Values are, as you can see beside. Name is doctor 1, specialization is neuro. Okay. Now if I do doctor.last, what do we observe? We observe that a doctor record is returned to us. Okay. So to create a new object, we make use of the .new method. Inside that, if we make use of .save method, it means that the doctor object is saved. And to see what is the object that is being created, we can make use of doctor.last method. Now if I create another object, doctor.new, say name is doctor2 and specialization is in some heart specialist. Okay. Now I save this. At the rate doctor2 dot save. Now if I see doctor.all, I observe that it will return me an array of two objects. Okay. Now that I have created for doctor, you can similarly create it for a patient as well. So patient will see what is the model first. Patient contains ID, name, illness, doctor ID, that is the foreign key, created at, updated at. Okay. Now if I give patient dot new at the rate patient, name some patient one, some illness, say some fever. Here doctor ID I should pass. It means to which doctor the patient is reporting. Suppose I pass doctor ID as 1. Okay. So at the rate patient dot save. Saved. Now at the rate patient I got something. If I do dot doctor, I see that a doctor object is written. So this is the beauty of primary key and foreign key. I have saved just the doctor ID in my patient table. Now if I just run at the rate patient dot doctor, I observe that doctor object is being returned. Okay. So this is basic about primary key, foreign key, and how we can save the data and how we can retrieve the data. We'll see Rails DB. Rails DB is also very similar to what we how we use the SQL database or whatever. Now if I do select star from say doctors, what do we see? We see the two records are being written. Doctor 1 neuro, doctor 2 heart specialist. Similarly, I can do select star from patients. And we observe that one patient record is being written. So what we observed here is whatever action you do in your console or whatever action you do through your browser, all that will be reflected in the database immediately. So all these are connected with each other. So I'm just exiting this. So we have seen what is the Rails commands. We have seen the various Rails command of starting a server. Rails server can be started with Rails space server. And to open a Rails console, we make use of Rails space console. To open the Rails DB, we make use of Rails space DB. To view the application, we make use of HTTP localhost :3000 / whatever you give will become the root. Okay. So this is just a very basic example of how Ruby and Ruby on Rails works. So if you want to continue learning, you can visit this. These are some of the best links to learn Rails. So if you want to study further or you want to get more and more knowledge on Rails, note down these links. It will be useful for you in the future. Guides.rubyonrails.org. This is like a very standard site from where you can learn about Rails. And there is also a book called Learn Ruby on Rails by Michael Hartle. There are a lot of online tutorials, online videos also as well by Michael Hartle. So you can just see that and you can simultaneously start practicing, because Ruby and Ruby on Rails both are free open source technology. You can download it at your system at any time and you can just start working on it. RubyOnRails.org is a very famous website and it covers all the required things. You don't have to refer to any other thing if you are familiar with this website. So that is it. I'll stop then. Okay.